climate. It seems that I am just forever damp. Like, it's not the Texas heat making me sweat constantly, it's the rain. I stepped into this car to just get out of the rain just because this story's starting to get to a kind of a heavy spot, so I wanted to talk about it without having to walk. So, yeah, not quite back to the barn, whatever, but we're still a few hours from dark, but it's just raining, so it's getting cloudy down here anyway. So I made it past over the bridge. The smoldering hulk of that damn oil tanker was over there. I saw the military guys on the road heading towards whatever, and then the gunfire. And I guess that was, by the time I was like, screw it, this is screwed, whatever it is. And I started trying to hustle my way down a little bit. Like I said, not at a run, just a steady walk. And I came up on, like I said, I can't remember if it was Fairmont or Spencer or whatever. There was a couple of cars that were moving south, but they weren't stopping, they weren't looking, they weren't talking, right? I got to the next one, and there was a cop car, just like, it wasn't craned into the pole or anything, it was pulled to the side, the door was open, and it was empty, like, and there wasn't nobody around. Against my better judgment, I yelled like, hey, what the hell's going on? Where are you? Nothing. And this is where it kind of went sideways. Guy came running up, and, I could tell he had something in his hand. And he's like, get the hell away from the car, blah, blah, blah. I was like, it's not like an undercover cop. I'm not an idiot. I said, nah, dude, kiss my ass, whatever. We got into it verbally, and then he produced a knife. And said he was going to take the car and get the hell out of here, blah, blah, blah. And I was going to get out of his way. I shot him. I pulled my weapon, and I shot this guy. He hit him in the gut. He fell over squalling. And, like, the world going around, and this guy was whatever, so I figured I would be the one to take the cop car. There was no cop, there was a shot, there was nothing coming around. Like, even the one car going down the feeder didn't even seem to slow down or notice that we were there. I bailed in the car, keys were in it, and I gunned it, took off. And I'm hustling down 146. Like I said, going south, there isn't a lot of cars. North, there is some, and you'll see patches of them kind of folded up, crunch, shot, whatever, smoldering. There was a couple of them that was on fire on the feeder roads, whatever. But I guess everybody had just abandoned this part of town, like hadn't come back this way. So I got down, NASA, Kima was there. I just got to the other side of the Kima, and I heard rumbling. And I mean rumbling, you can feel it. Usually when you're on those like elevated roads and the bridges, easier when there goes by. You don't notice when you're driving. But when you're sitting there parked and somebody goes by, you can feel that big bastard vibrating. Like, it's moving. That's what it felt like, but there was nobody else on the road. And I said, what in the hell? And I looked, southeast-ish, I guess, towards Texas City, and you could see smoke and shit billowing. You kind of see it usually from like the flares and that kind of stuff. But this was something going on, man. It found out later that they had bombed the shit out of Texas City, is what it was. I say they, I'm guessing it was the military that had invaded or whatever. I thought it was terrorists or whatever. Those plants generally try to blow up in any kind of situation anyway. And what in the actual hell? That scared the hell out of me. I worked in the plants for a while. Dad did it for like 40 years or something, I think. And I said, well, yeah, this is not just an isolated terrorist thing. Like, this is something big. So I got another little cop car. I knew they could track it, but the internet's out. So how in the hell are they going to track it? Screw these guys. So I did kind of get a little pang of guilt for leaving somebody on foot when I took their cop car, but they could talk to somebody else, getting around with anybody else. Felt guilty about shooting a guy in the gut, too, and leaving him there, but somebody had a knife. So I started booking it south, and when I turned to try to cut over to 45 through Clear Lake, man, just everything went dead. Whoa. And what the actual fuck? The car shut down, couldn't get anything to work on it. Was able to pull it over to the side of the road just there. And I didn't see any other vehicles that were moving. Everybody was kind of pulled over. And they're like, what the hell is that? And then just a flash of light, just, wow, hit everybody. And like I said, it's early morning. It's 10 o'clock. What in the actual fuck was that? And they had bombed downtown with some, everybody says it's some kind of nuke, whatever. But I knew it was like 25 miles. We always talk about it because we have so many plants and stuff going on down here that if they were to blow up, the plants, it would screw us. But we lived around here. It's all within 25 miles. So somebody said it was a small tactical something or other. I thought that was just from video games, whatever. But all our, our quote unquote skyscrapers from Houston, the Houston skyline was just flattened after that. But we didn't know that at the time. It was just a flash. We're like, what the fuck? Like blah blah blah. And then you could hear rumbling, and it was deeper. It was like a freight train coming at you. And then just all the trees just jerked like they were kind of, like you ever see somebody try to fight you, they hunch their shoulders forward. It was like the entire line of trees on the right hand side of the road just rah, and it just whoosh hit everybody. And so what the hell is that? So we started making it, getting down the road, man. Some people were freaking out, crying and shit. You could hear them up in the woods and and all the little shopping centers right there. Because once you leave 146, it's like all trees and shit down there for a while. Then you hit the shopping centers and all the subdivisions and the rich people stuff. But you could hear people screaming, and every now and then a gunshot, whatever. Made it down trying to cross over to 646. So, something Lakes. Don't even remember the road anymore. And we're cruising down that way. And, but I was relatively unharassed on foot, man. And like I said, I didn't really bring much. I had a couple of bottles of water in a pocket, had my med thing on me, but I wouldn't carry much anything else. And I was just bugging down the road. It took forever. This is a long ass walk. And we got down that way. Made it over to where my sister's house was, but I was pretty sure that she had evacuated and they just didn't come back. House was empty, locked up, nobody was answering. Only saw like one guy and he was standing on his porch with a gun, out there. So sister, my nieces and brother-in-law, they's all gone somewhere else. I'm pretty sure if they would have left, they would have taken mom and my other sister with them. But mom being hard-headed, she might have stayed. So I needed to go down there and check on her too. So, but she's Hitchcock, far side of the world. So I started heading south of that. I was like, so what in the hell's going on, right? So we got a hurricane done hit us, another little storm after that, and then like a military invasion, and then Houston just got bombed off the friggin' map. Part of Texas City's burning. Like you can see that when it gets dark, it just glows down there. There's everything burning. That smoke is coming north, so if you got asthma and shit, it's got to be rough. We always complain about Canadian smoke or Sahara dust or whatever. The city all just got bombed out of hell. Like that smoke, and it's summertime, so everything's coming north. So I didn't have to worry really about the fallout, I guess. Initial blast of the radiation thing, I guess. But like all the fallout's gonna go north because it's the middle of summer, so everything's going inland. So I headed on down the road, man. It was weird. I had always read about this kind of stuff, and you had time to sit and think. But just walking, just listening to your own feet, and kind of keeping your head up, and any kind of quote-unquote situational awareness dragged all of my attention. I didn't have time to sit and really stress about what the hell is going on, who's doing this, where do I fit in here. Like, I'm just civilian at this point, man. I am not military, I'm not law enforcement, I am not emergency responder. I was a volunteer for a while, but what the actual hell. So it all started following me there. And family's somewhere else. Hopefully they're safe, they're not taken anywhere else. It's good, but I got to get down and get away from whatever the hell that flashlight was. I mean, you can kind of guess, but who the hell knows. So I headed south, man, and then right when I got to where all the shopping centers and stuff by 45, it went different. It was a giant group of people like parked out in the parking lot of like the Walmarts and stuff. I fell asleep in this car in the rain. Just reminds me of like old nights in the barn, man, listening to it rain over at Dad's house back growing up. But the smell of an abandoned car. These have been abandoned at least a year, and just the musty, mildewy smell just gross. It's horrible. Alright, so where were we? I need to get back on the road, back to the house. Uh, so let's get out of here and do this thing. So, uh, yeah, so I made it to the Walmart, or the Walmart parking lot. It was a giant strip center right there on 45, and it was covered with people. These people were coming back. I don't know if they didn't notice the flash, the bombing, the explosions and stuff, but they were all kind of milling about in the parking lot like it was. All right, so once I got there, everybody was being super friendly. Nobody was being defensive. It was weird. This was the society that I was hoping for. When horrible things happen, we come together. And it was like out in front of where the big hobby center was, the hobby shop. There were people set up, and there were like half-assed tents and pop-ups everywhere. And God bless the the Texans guys, man. There was like 4 or 5 guys that had brought their like big cooking team barbecue trailers out and had them uh, set up and were cooking. Like they were just going into the Walmart next door, bringing out the food, just cooking all this meats. Like refrigerators off, right? So they're just cooking meats, and nobody's charging anything. Everybody's just being community. There's not music playing or anything, but there's a murmur across the board. Nobody's being loud and shouting, yay! But everybody's just kind of talking and milling, whatever. Now over directly in front of the Walmart, and the big thing there, and then the home goods or home repair place. There was a bunch of military tents and military guys, and it was all U.S. troops. I can tell they all had American flags on their stuff. There were some that were like state guard, and there was a small contingent of actual like U.S. Army guys, and they were handling stuff there. There was definitely like a cordon, like you don't go over there, but all the civilians are here, and people were handing out food. There was like a medical tent. I'm walking around, I don't recognize anybody, but everybody's cool with me just being a stranger walking in. And over like the medical stuff, people are getting checked out and doing whatever. And then I noticed some of the vests that looked familiar. It was some of my volunteer people from my local group, so I ran over. These are the people that I saw either get taken away or whatever. Yeah, I saw my friend there. I've known her forever. Then she ran up, she like hugged me. And I was like, what in the hell happened? She thought I was dead. I thought she was dead. And she explained, like, it was, she sat me down, like, here, let me check you out. And I was dehydrated, got me a bottle of water, motherly all the time. And she explained that they had showed up right after the hurricane hit, like that morning. And it was a group of military that was basically the rest of the world. Everybody got tired of American shit, and they made a giant alliance to kind of just try to get rid of the administration, put everybody in check. So they came in. Some are more enthusiastic about it, and were worried about uprising and militias, and we looked way too much like a militia, so they had taken a bunch of our medical people and whatever. They got jumped by the state guards guys and got loose, and they were over here. But yeah, we were invaded by the world. That's who was doing the bombing and stuff. I thought it was like a terrorist thing, but now in the middle of that, they're also saying that there was uprisings of the militia, the white supremacy groups, gangs had popped up. There were actual terrorist cells that were coming up. They were just like took this as, okay, well then let's kick the hell out of whoever we want to, and kind of took over. So they're all over the place. There's pockets of these guys, and then they went to bombing and stuff. They're trying to figure out what the bombing was in downtown, who did that, why did that. But it was very hard to get any kind of information. Everybody's radios and stuff were fried. The satellites were shot. There's no electricity to speak of. They were trying to get generators. The only generator they had was over in the military camp portion, and they were using it for whatever, but they were not forthcoming with information. So it was very hard to get any kind of back and forth. There was a group of American militia that were trying to go together and go fight with these guys and do whatever, and that's where her daughters had gone, in-laws and friends. But this is what got me caught up on what's going on now. The bombing and the big blast in Houston, and then I told them about the ones over like towards Texas City area. They said they had heard about it, but they don't know what's going on. Vehicle ingress and egress is just kind of limited. I told them about 146 is a whole big thing. So I got caught up on the situation. This is what was going on. And also, last they heard, another storm was coming. So it was like apocalypse upon apocalypse upon apocalypse. But they were worried about chemical agents and biologicals and stuff. So they also had a new like coverall vaccine kind of thing that they were giving out. So we got in line to get all that done. But there was food, so I went and got food. And everybody was relatively jovial, right? And we were just sitting around, and I went and got a plate of like the best looking ribs I'd ever seen. It was these big hillbilly guys just happy to cook. And occasionally there'd be gunfire over towards the south. Apparently, they had landed Galveston, taken most of Galveston Island as uh, and as like a landing spot for the invading group of allies, world allies, or whatever they were calling themselves. So they were trying to fight north from there, and they were fighting back here. So we were just like occasionally towards the south side of that, you'd hear a couple of gunfires. Everybody kind of squat where they were, like, eh? And everybody looked like scared rabbits. Like everybody was just looking to bolt and run. Every time that happened, like, eh? A couple of people would produce pieces, just but it wouldn't be but like a couple of shots. And then everybody just kind of slowly resumed. Like you'd almost like hear the music like record scratch. And everybody pauses for a second, terrified we're going to have to scramble like rats or roaches. And then the music would start playing. And but there wasn't actual music. This is very much what you'd expect. And people were getting their shots and getting taken care of. And people were going into the stores and grabbing stuff. And that line was forever long for the shot, so I was like, I'm gonna go. So I ducked in, got a new backpack, the only backpack I could find that was bigger than the one I had. Was like a Transformers school backpack, but Optimus is awesome. So I went ahead and got that. I went and grabbed a couple of pairs of socks, and some shorts. Were in there. They were all random colors. I'm not too good to loot a major box store, man. That ain't me. And I did, poke my head through the toy section and see if there's anything there, but there wasn't. It was relatively unransacked, but I did go look through that. Just as it's a capitalism knee-jerk reaction. Like I'm in the store, gotta go check out the toys. But grab the stuff, food. People were grabbing carts, but nobody was like being violent about it. Everybody was like it was just a regular shopping day, just without checking out. So you just grabbed everything. So by the time I got there, it was already kind of low. There had to be 150, 200 people outside, and people were getting the carts, loading it up, but they weren't like fighting it or just doing whatever. All the stuff that was being perishable is just about gone, or like all the fruit and veg had already started to wilt and whatever. But people were grabbing meats, just taking them out to these barbecue guys who were just happy to cook it outside, which was just like the coolest ever, man. Got the food, went to come back out, and gunshots, everybody ducks, It happened like every 10, 20 minutes. I don't know what the hell those guys were shooting at or whatever, or being shot at or whatever. But it was very cool. It was like humanity without labels and distinctions for us. Like nobody was like, oh, that's a bad guy taking whatever, or these fucking white people are doing that, or oh my god, Democrats and Republicans. Everybody was just like, we're humans and we are refugees in our own country at this point. And everybody was being very cool. By the evening, people had wheeled out like metal bins that they got from somewhere, and they had little fires here and there from just the leftover firewood inside, and everybody was just kind of sitting around, hanging out, talking, doing a thing, man. It was the last good night we had for a long time. Okay, been a couple of days. Made it back to the barn out here in the sticks. It is nighttime. You can tell because every bug in the world is screaming. I'm hiding on my little cot in my crate under my half-assed mosquito net, which works for the mosquitoes that are outside, but the ones that follow me in, I gotta fight them off and fight those for 30 minutes, get all those squished or fed, and then they'll leave me alone. But yeah, so made it back home. Alright, I'll catch up on that later. So, man, it is hot. It is muggy. Uh, so it is August. It is finally August. So we're getting, I think, if I'm counting the days right, my little handy dandy pocket farmer's almanac pocketbook thing. But yeah, it's go hot. This is miserable. All right, so where were we? It's been a little bit. Oh, we're over in front of the stores, man. Yeah, last good night. So everybody was just ignoring the explosions that happened, or didn't believe us. I don't. It was right there. It was right up 45. You would have been able to see it from there. Uh, there was rumors everywhere about what's going on, why, but nobody was arguing. Nobody was yelling and screaming yet. There was still sporadic shots, and then there was one thing that was about 3 o'clock or so in the morning, where it was kind of an extended sounding firefight south of us, with our military guys that are over in the next parking lot, fighting the other way. So it woke everybody up that was just asleep, and everybody was just kind of sleeping wherever. It wasn't raining for the first time in 2 weeks. A lot of people were sleeping on those grass berms in between the parking lots and stuff, but people went and got in cots and bunks and blankets and those folding camp chairs that bite your hips from inside, and we're just kind of sprawled out wherever. I think the tents went first. You can see where there's a little tent city where everybody kind of camped up in there. But there were snores and well-fed, heavy breathing that was out there. You can tell everybody had a full barbecue. The guys on the grills just kept cooking all night. They had a lot of food to cook, Didn't want to waste it, didn't want it to go bad, so these guys just took it on themselves to cook everything, man. So everybody expected breakfast in the morning or whatever. But we woke up with a low-flying jet just screaming overhead. If you've never had one of these attack fighter jet things just buzz you, like I've been to the air shows and stuff. Used to work there on the special needs kids days on Fridays or whatever. And those jets would just scream overhead. They're still 500 yards up, but just it rattles your bones. This had to be lower. Like everybody jumped, screamed, what in the actual fuck? And it just ripped overhead. It was just one of them. The military guys fired some shots, but you could barely hear them over that scream. That's Thunderbird, man. Oh. And I posted up near the volunteer group, man, and just kind of fell asleep, leaned against a pop-up pole with a sandbag under my butt so I wasn't sitting flat on the asphalt. But I immediately jumped up, legs still half asleep, and snatched up, and then there was gunfight to the south. But it just kept going. It wasn't one of these short, sporadic, probing things like, oh, bang, bang. This was a bunch of guys shooting, and then people screaming, and then more shooting, and smaller explosions, So everybody got nervous, and started nobody broke into a run immediately. But everybody started okay, let's get our stuff and start going elsewhere. And then I guess in that is somebody grabbed something that somebody else had claimed or thought they had, whatever. We just woke up. Everybody's confused. So who the hell knows why? But screaming, hey, that's mine, motherfucker, screamed out. And, man, then all hell broke loose on this side. People were like, hey, what's going on? Don't mess with her. Don't touch her. Why are you tasing? And then somebody dropped a racial slur of some kind. And then, the whole world came undone. So to the south, we had all the gunfight and the death approaching. To the north of us is where this explosion had, so everybody's terrified to go that way. Right in the middle is, 300 people, I'm guessing. Just, yelling and screaming, grabbing stuff. Other people trying to be reasonable, talk the other people down, getting caught in the middle of it. Other people just, grabbing their stuff and going. People getting trampled. Some people couldn't get up. Older people sleeping just on the ground, on their little makeshift cots and, pallets, and just, oh my God. So I tried to help, but everybody just kind of scrambled. All the volunteers just went in different directions. There was no real incident command group that was in charge. They all just took off, go, oh, I'm going to help this person, or I'm going to get out of here, that kind of stuff. And so I looked for my friends, couldn't find them, looked for the nice people last night. the hillbillies were trying to get their truck started, but the EMP from whatever blast had happened had killed it all, so nobody could get anything running. A couple of them tried overnight putting new batteries and stuff in it from Walmart, but those were fried too. So you figured all the lead in the roof paint would stop that. So then, as everybody's fighting here, then gunshots happened here. People pulled out weapons and started shooting other civilians over all this food and stuff. And I am not getting murdered over this. So I took off southwest, trying to skirt all this fighting bullshit. Tried to catch 646 to get to, back to town to see where, Dad was at, if he's bunkered up out there, or down to Hitchcock, see where Mom's at, or whatever. And the guy stepped out like he was going to challenge me to something. I was like, nah, I don't give a shit. Walked around him. But, across the now dead highway, couldn't see anything. I did look north, and it just looked like a giant cloud. As the sun's just coming up, but you just couldn't see anything north of, like, Beltway 8, dude. It just looked like all cloud that way. I was like, well, don't trust that shit. And, there's still gunfire, still craziness in the south, so you know where to avoid, So I'm cutting through the old housing thing, gotta go through a big ditch. Not seeing anybody or whatever. But it was just a wreck. And I knew there was going to be another storm coming because it's summertime, man. These storms just keep coming. But I was hoping there were rumors before I left that another tropical depression, possibly a hurricane, was coming before all this. And I was hoping that was the storm that came in after the hurricane. But no promises. And people were shooting and gunning and screaming. I just fucking left. Couldn't find my people. Didn't want to get shot over it. Didn't want them to get shot over it. I was hoping my friend had enough sense to get out of there. But she'd be probably going to where the hell her daughters were. So I went to go find where my family was, man. So I started going down the road. And these smaller roads, they weren't major interstates, were a lot more gummed up from people trying to leave. Like all the north and eastbound lanes were just clogged up, and then so the other side, it looked like the dozers and stuff had been through there, and there was cars, but they're all pushed off the road going in, which I thought was weird because this invading army that we had should have been coming north out of the island. But I don't know what the hell had happened. It was terrifying. But I made it about half a mile down, and man, you couldn't even hear the gunfight anymore. I didn't know if the gunfire had stopped, or if I just couldn't hear it. All the trees and all that kind of stuff, which they keep trying to mow down, with all the different cars here, but it just got to eerie silence. I went from, 300 people being content, not necessarily happy, but not screaming or panicking, to just a cacophonous roar of these panicked people and gunfights and a jet, all that kind of stuff. And now I'm down here. And it's lucky to hear bugs in the day. It's just too hot. Maybe an angry cicada that's mad that somebody woke it up. So I started walking down this town, man. Or walking down to town from this road. Still keeping an eye out. Had a little bit of leftover food in my bag, my new Transformers bag. And I was heading that way. I think I got about, a quarter mile past the welcome to Santa Fe sign when I heard somebody yelling in the distance. I started to run towards it, and then I heard the unmistakable shotgun cocking ka-chuk from the side of it, and somebody said, hey, don't move, and there I was.